Well, good morning. If we can have folks, there's some handouts on the table, so feel free to pick those up. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to our third installment of our series on mental health issues. Today, we're fortunate to have some people from the local chapter of NAMI. How many people have heard of NAMI before, NAMI? So it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So it's a national organization that advocates for mental health issues, educates, and we'll learn about some of the services. We have a very active chapter here in the Kalamazoo area. So we're fortunate to have three different individuals who have been very involved with NAMI and get out in the community and do lots of good work. So we have Bev Keeson, who is the treasurer of NAMI Southwest Michigan, and she also oversees the Faith Net initiative, which is a faith community kind of church synagogue-based kind of program. So we'll be hearing more about that. We also have Mabel Hoskins, if you want to wait, Mabel. Is a board member of NAMI Southwest Michigan, and she kind of oversees some of the family support group and family to family, works as a family to family facilitator. We'll also be hearing from Brant Gauthier, who is vice president of NAMI Southwest Michigan, and he oversees a program called Ending the Silence. He's a leader, and we'll learn more about what that is too. So let's give a warm welcome to our friends and colleagues from NAMI. Thanks, Gary. Good morning, everybody. Morning. Thank you so much, Gary and congregation and members here at Prince Peace Lutheran Church for allowing us to come in and this speak to you this wonderful series that's been put together about mental health. Again, my name's Brant. I'm vice president of NAMI Southwest Michigan, and today we're going to talk about supporting family or friends with mental health challenges. There we go. So who is NAMI? What is NAMI? As Gary mentioned, it stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And what we are is we are the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization that's dedicated to bettering the lives for the millions of Americans and their families who are affected by mental illness. And what started as a group of families around a kitchen table in, I think, 1979 has now blossomed into over 900 local affiliates like here in Southwest Michigan, across the country, state organizations, and a whole host of volunteers who are boots on the ground, providing education, advocacy, support, and awareness for mental health. So some of the programs we offer relating to education, support, and advocacy. This first one here is called NAMI Basics, and this is completely online. It's called NAMI Basics on Demand, and what it is it's a 6-session course geared towards parents and caregivers of youth ages 22 and younger who have a mental health condition or are struggling with mental health challenges. It provides a bunch of information on how to work as an advocate for the young person working with their mental health provider, their medical provider, and the schools as well, kind of bringing it all together. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. What we call the kind of the gold standard model for care for NAMI is called a collaborative care model that involves all the participants. So link right there, it's online. I think it's available 24/7. I think we'll post the slides, which will have a link to this program, NAMI Basics on Demand. Really great program for, again, for parents and caregivers of youth who are dealing with mental health challenges. Also, it's led by family members, as you'll see throughout these programs. It's led by family members who have a child who is dealing with mental health challenges, mental health condition. Another program we offer, which I'm heavily involved in, is a program called Ending the Silence. What this is, it's a 50 to 60-minute presentation where we go into schools and speak generally to middle school and high school students, usually the health classes, and it teaches students and youth how to recognize the warning signs of a mental health condition, how to get help, who to talk to, how to talk to a friend who might be exhibiting some of the warning signs, and then overall eliminating the stigmas that we see in society today around mental health and mental health conditions. I'm the adults facilitator. I do about a 30-minute presentation about the warning signs, and it's pretty dry, and the feedback usually at the end is, no more of the old guy, bring on the young person, who is a young person, usually 25 or younger, who is in recovery with a mental health condition, and the students just flock to that young person. They tell their story of recovery and the hope that there is recovery out there. I'm going to turn it over to Mabel here real quick for a couple. She helps facilitate a couple of our family programs, family support group, and then family to family education. So Mabel, if you want to talk a little bit about your programs.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for welcoming me here. Beautiful day. So glad you could join us. Our family support group is an ongoing support group that is basically just adults, caregivers of children or loved ones who are suffering from mental health. This is where we all can come together. We all can talk about the issues we're having, the roadblocks we're having getting our loved ones help. We can talk about where to go to get support. We give encouragement that there is help out there. We also kind of give information as to, I'm here for you. I've got you. I know what you're going through. And sometimes that's what these caregivers need more than anything else, because they don't realize you're in the situation and you think you're the only one out there. You think that no one else could possibly be going through what you're going through. Yes, each and every individual that has the same diagnosis is a little bit different because body chemistry is a little bit different for each and every one, but the grassroots are basically the same. Now, our next one is the family to family. And I'm in the process of getting certified to co-facilitate the family support. I will be certified as of the 9th of March. Everything goes well. I am already certified in family to family. Family to family is a 6-week course. It's an actual class where we get together and we break down the specifics of how to help people. We touch base on self-care. We touch base on the medical aspect, very, very primitive medical aspect, because we're not doctors, but we just know the research and we can help them present the research and help them understand the research. We touch base on how to talk to individuals that have mental health issues, because the words you choose are very, very important. Very, very important. We also help give support. We teach our facilitators where to go. This is, and like I said, it is a course. It is very structured. It is taught by family members who have been through this with their own, and I have loved ones that I have cared for that have succeeded, that have gotten to the point where they're my children and they are both functioning members of society, and I'm very proud of where they have and what they have overcame. So it gives me a unique aspect because I've been through this. I've been the mother that just wants to throw fairy dust on somebody to make them better. And that's not how it works, unfortunately. If it did work in so many different aspects, this world would be a so much better place. We do not have a family to family set up at this point in time. We are in the process of getting my second facilitator certified. The family support group is taught on the third Monday of every month, which will be this Monday at City Gate Church from 6 o'clock to 7:30, 8 o'clock. And it's an ongoing course. It's just you all come, you talk, you sit, you get support, you feel the love, you feel the embrace of somebody who's been through it with you. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back to Brad.
I have a question.
Yes.
Either the program Brad talked about or your program give support to children of mentally ill parents.
Being a child of a mentally ill parent can also fall under the family support because you have a family member that's going through it.
Okay.
And the family support group will also be able to touch base with you because some of them are hereditary, so they are passed down. So if you have a parent that has it, the chances are that you had a grandparent that had it. They didn't even get diagnosed because they didn't diagnose it
Yeah, and in the Ending the Silence program, we touch on that too, because obviously we're talking to, young students, 6th grade through 12th grade, and we do touch on, having a loved one, a parent who are exhibiting warning signs. Where can you go for support and for help as well? It's very important, yes, for young people who may have a parent or a loved one. Bev is going to briefly talk about NAMI FaithNet, and then I will kind of jump into the.
I'm gonna make this brief, but I am Bev Keeson. Thank you so much for allowing us to come. And I am the coordinator for FaithNet. So our main objective is to get the interfaith communities together, individual churches, and supply them with resources and awareness and support for community services that are out there. I'm very strong in my faith, and I believe very strongly in faith, but there are some times when you have to reach out and go beyond that. God provides doctors and medical and medicine too, along with this. So what we're trying to do is get that support out there, that awareness out there. There are some clergy, when they have somebody come in their church, they feel when you go to church, where do you go? It's safe, right? It's a safe place. But again, you're suffering in silence. You're ashamed. There's a lot of guilt behind that. So what we're doing is we're reaching out to bridge that gap, because your brain is an organ like your heart and your lungs. So it is a medical condition. Also, I'm on my 5th mental health support group in the church that I attend. We also encourage small groups together where we get together and we help each other and support each other within the church. And so that's another thing that we like to reach out to the clergy in their churches so they can actually form those support groups in their own church. And it's just been very, very eye-opening and very rewarding to see that they can come out and they can feel safe. It's a safe place. Church is a safe place. It should be. But again, you should have those facilities, those resources to provide that. Also, we are in the process of also forming a citywide conference for interfaith clergy to come and combine with the services and community that is out there to help each other. So it's a combination of faith and the community, the resources joining together to make sure that there's resources out there for people that are suffering from mental health and families too.
Great, thank you. So several programs we offer at NAMI. If you're on social media, I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, just NAMI Southwest Michigan. There's always resources being posted on there. There's one I'll talk a little bit about. It's called anosognosia. I just saw last night our social media person posted a hour and 15-minute talk with Dr. Xavier Amador, the leading expert in the nation on a condition called anosognosia. Started watching that. It's really interesting. So lots of information if you follow us on social media. Again, as you heard, these programs that we offer at NAMI are all led by instructors and facilitators who have a lived and learned experience. And that's the heart of these NAMI programs, is the facilitators and leaders sharing their personal experiences with the members of the classes and support groups. So why is this all important? You've probably heard over the past couple of weeks throughout this series, these statistics, but it bears reminding again. 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 5 youth in America today are suffering from or will suffer from a diagnosable mental health condition at some point in their lives. 20%. When I go into the schools, I go to a larger school and there's 1,000 students in the school. You do the math, 20%, 200 students look at are going to have a diagnosable mental health condition at some point in their lives. Go to your place of employment, your church, and do the math, 20%. It's a staggering number, in my opinion. And then nearly 60% adults and 50% of the youths aged 8 to 15 do not seek out treatment. And that's just, it's astonishing to me because of a lot of the stigmas that exist out there about mental health. I think the real quick, 50%, half of mental health conditions start manifesting and exhibiting symptoms by the age of 14, 75% by the age of 24. So unbelievable. So the earlier we can reach youth, people, the better outcome. So yeah, these are just some quick stats on why this is so important. So let's talk now about family members, friends who might be dealing with a mental health condition, mental health crisis. The first step, know the warning signs. It can be difficult sometimes, right? We all have stress in life. We all feel sad or, down sometimes. But we're talking about these signs of, weeks on end. Your loved one is not able to go about their day-to-day activities in their normal fashion. Excessive worrying and fear, feeling extremely sad or low, exhibiting signs of hostility, resentment, anger for an extended period of time, drastic mood swings, going from euphoric highs down to depressive lows that just don't seem to end the cycle. Avoiding friends, social activities, withdrawing from their hobbies and likes and wants, changes in eating habits. These are all warning signs that a mental health condition might be starting to manifest itself. Where to go for help? If you notice a friend or family member exhibiting some of these warning signs, ISK, Integrated Service Kalamazoo, was here last week talking about the services they offer. Our support groups here. Talk to your insurance company, see what services are covered. Unfortunately, we live in that system of insurance here in this country, good or bad, right or wrong. We won't get into that. But talk to your insurance company, talk to your primary health care provider. They can offer a lot of support to you as well. We're getting a lot better, especially in this area of integrating mental health into the primary care physician. I don't know, every time I go to the doctor, whether it's for a checkup, they give me a quick questionnaire with a magic marker and they score it up. And if your score is in a certain range or higher than a certain number, I get a call from a social worker who's based right in my doctor's office. So we're getting a lot better at that collaborative care of integrating the medical side in with the psychological and psychiatric side. So again, warning signs, take them seriously, reach out to somebody if a friend or family member or loved one is starting to exhibit those. So let's say your friend, family member, loved one is exhibiting these warning signs and they have a diagnosable mental health condition. There's some predictable stages of emotion. There's kind of three of them. Number one, dealing with the catastrophic event. Your initial reaction might be shock, crisis, don't know where to go, denial. This isn't serious. There's got to be some other explanation other than a mental health condition. This is just a phase. It's going to pass. All normal initial reactions to a family member or loved one with a mental health condition. At this time, your needs, you're going to need, as a caregiver or a family member, you're going to need support. Where to go? You might seem just overwhelmed, lost. Help finding resources, and that's where NAMI or your medical care provider can kind of step in and help you. Second stage we talk about is learning to cope. You might have feelings of anger, resentment, hostility, guilt, anger at the person, your loved one. Oh, they're just doing this on purpose to get a rise out of me. Normal reaction. Blaming yourself. I must have been a terrible parent. I must have been a terrible friend. I failed in my duties as a parent. Again, normal reaction, that guilt, that self-guilt. Periods of grief. Grieving for your loved one and your hopes and dreams that for that person now may have changed. This could be a lifelong journey for that person. So there'll be a grieving process. And at this point, your needs, you need to vent, you need to be heard. You need the system, the medical and psychiatric system to work for you. You need to keep hope. And then the third kind of stage is you start moving into advocacy, start understanding more. You're empathetic towards your loved one. You don't know exactly what they're going through, but you understand the science and the reasons behind it. You start accepting it. This is my new reality. This is the new reality for our family, for my friend. And then moving into advocacy yourself, reaching out and, like Mabel, myself, Bev, working with NAMI, running support groups, facilitating support groups in education, moving on to that advocacy phase. Again, these three stages, they're not wrong, they're not bad. Everybody's at a different spot in your family. Everybody might be at a different spot at a different time. Just recognize those stages and that they're completely normal reactions, and it's cyclical. You're not going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 and be done. You know, if there's a crisis or a relapse, you might move back to number 1, and then you slowly build up back to number 3, and might move back to number 2. So again, all normal, again, not bad, not wrong, but these are just normal reactions to a family member or a loved one with a mental health condition. I use this word empathy a lot, and it's really, really important as you're dealing with a family member or loved one with a mental health condition to keep empathy at the forefront of your mind. I love this definition: the intimate comprehension of another person's thoughts and feelings without imposing our own judgment or expectations. A little different than sympathy, of feeling sorry for somebody. There's a big difference between empathy and sympathy. You have an understanding. You may not know exactly how that person is feeling, but you understand the whys and the hows and how to react. And you don't judge them. You don't label them. You have compassion for that person. So empathy, always keep empathy at the forefront of your mind when dealing with a family member or loved one with a mental health condition. You got the warning signs. You recognize them. How do you approach that person? How do you support that person? Step 1, reach out, respond, initiate that conversation. That's the real hard part. So these are some phrases you can use. It worries me to hear you talk like that. What can I do to help? Tell me more about what's happening. Let's sit down, find some resources. Let's find a support group, a therapist, somebody to talk to. I can come with you if you want and support you if you feel more comfortable that way. And then second, provide resources and support to that person. You yourself start learning more about mental health conditions, the NAMI website, ISK, all of the resources around here nationwide, tons of information on their websites. We have a great book by Dr. Kenneth Duckworth, Chief Medical Officer for NAMI. He wrote, "You Are Not Alone." It's a bunch of stories about people and their journey towards recovery of mental health. Mabel mentioned earlier, the stigmas around language, really important to avoid words and phrases to that person like, you'll get over it. Toughen up. It's not that bad. A lot of people have it worse. You know, avoid those kind of words and phrases when talking to somebody who has a mental health condition. It's absolutely not what they want to hear. But reassure that person, hey, with the right support and help, there is hope, and recovery is very, very possible. Again, I'm going to be talking a lot here. If there's any questions, or we'll have time at the end for discussion, comments, everything. But pretty informal here, so just to raise your hand or shout out if you have any questions as we move along here. So again, some communication strategies here. When you're dealing with somebody who might be in a crisis, mental health crisis, be direct, use short, clear, direct sentences. I can tend to be long-winded sometimes and go off on tangents. So try to avoid those long-winded tangents. Short, direct, concise, keeping the content of what you say simple. Keep the level of stimulation as low as possible for your loved one. Again, voice slow and calm, body language calm and slow. I like to talk with my hands a lot too, and I get animated, so it's tough for me to kind of sit on my hands, and I'm a hand talker. Be pleasant and firm. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Have a consistent message with that person. Don't contradict yourself. Don't contradict others that may be in the family and the household as well. Have a centralized message that you want to convey to that person. Assume the person may not be able to initially absorb a lot of what you're saying to them. This might be a new condition to them as well. So be patient with that person. Don't force the conversation. If they need time to just go off and collect their own thoughts, that's fine. They're going to be more, you have a better chance of reaching that person and helping them on the road to recovery and helping them get the support they need if they are willing to listen instead of forcing down their throats what you want them to do.
Your last slide that, after the one before that talked about empathy.
Yeah.
And, I find it really hard to not have any expectations that the person go to treatment or try to change. I mean, in some family situations, it feels like things staying the way they are just can't continue. We're not supposed to expect any.
There's a fine, yeah, I understand what you're saying. There's a fine line there with our own expectations. Of course, we're going to always have expectations. We'll have biases built in, and we want that person to be healthy, but understanding that it may not happen or come to fruition exactly the way that you expect it to for that person. But yeah, there's always that. Now, as I sum up at the end, there's always that expectation of hope and recovery for that person. It just may look a lot different than what you think it might be for that person than what the reality turns out to be. So
Like prayer.
Can I also interject that recovery is different for each individual? Recovery, like if you have a cold, recovery is being able to breathe at night. If you have a mental health issue, recovery might be as simple as remembering to take your medication every day.
yeah, good point, Mabel. Thank you. I statements. Anybody familiar with I statements? Yeah, it's a great communication strategy. Allows us to focus on the facts without blaming anybody. They can change the atmosphere in your household. Again, say what you mean and mean what you say. Examples of I statements here when you're talking to somebody with a mental health condition. I feel frightened when you stop talking to me. I worry that something might be wrong. I feel sad when there's so much fighting going on in this house. And you can also use I statements to praise that person as well. I'm very proud of you and the progress you're making in your recovery. The simple I statements, how I feel about you as a person who's living with a mental health condition. So using I statements, again, can change the atmosphere in your home. Stick with those. Don't relapse back into the blaming of the person with the mental health condition. Just state concisely and clearly how you feel about the situation, about that person. Then reflective responses. Acknowledging the reality of your loved one's lived experience. It's real to them. It's true to them, rather than what you feel is real to them. Focus your response on what someone having this experience must be feeling rather than what you are feeling. So again, you're focusing on the individual with the mental health condition and what their thoughts and feelings are. And then communicate that you understand what your loved one believes and how they feel. Some examples of reflective responses with dealing with mental health conditions and family members and loved ones. It must be frightening to think that somebody's trying to hurt you. You seem sad today. Is there anything I can help you with? I know this is frustrating for you. Not being included in a group is hard. You sound very discouraged about school. What can I do to help? So these reflective responses that is validating that person's feelings and thoughts. So again, reflective response is really very important. And I touched on this earlier, kind of the collaborative care model. Oops, went one too far. There we go. With the right support at home or with a friend, we can achieve this gold model of collaborative care where all three major players are involved. Obviously, the person in recovery who's receiving the treatment and has the mental health condition, the family members, that they're being supported, they have the education and the tools to advocate for their loved one. And then the mental health providers and the primary care physicians, where I talked about how at Bronson Groves, where I have my primary care physician, they have a social worker right there that's on the spot. So all of those working together in conjunction to build this collaborative care, which again, we feel at NAMI is the gold star and the gold method for recovery. It's not common. It's getting more common, but there's still a lot of barriers to achieving this collaborative care method. A lot of medical practices and institutions are resistant to change. It's just nature of hospitals and doctor's office and the bureaucracy that exists. HIPAA limitations. If you're a family member as an adult, there could be some HIPAA issues that you have to work through. Family members might feel burned out, that they're just stressed beyond belief. They just don't want to have to deal with working with all these different partners in treatment and care for their loved one. The person doesn't want their family involved. They're embarrassed. I don't want mom, dad, brother, sister. I don't want them involved at all. There's reluctance from the individual as well. And then difficulty, you might live across country or across state from your loved one. It's tough. Telehealth's gotten a lot better over the years, but there's still that geographical barrier that can exist for achieving this collaborative care method. But again, this is what we at NAMI consider the gold star method of care for somebody with a mental health condition. The person with the mental health condition, I keep doing that. Might experience some emotions that limit and resistance to treatment for their mental health condition. I spoke about anosognosia, lack of insight. A lot of people who have a mental health condition don't believe they're ill. It's actually so prevalent that can be a secondary diagnosed mental health condition for those with a mental illness. I'm not ill. I don't need help. I'm perfectly fine. It's a form of denial, but it's actually a diagnosed condition as well. Second common emotional experience for a consumer, somebody with a mental health condition, is protective denial. I don't need treatment. They recognize that something's wrong, but either lack of trust for the mental health system, they think they can take care of it themselves without any help at all. Again, protective denial. Third one, this is interesting. The other night I was watching A Beautiful Mind. It was on the channel Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe, the biography of John Nash, brilliant mathematician, Nobel Prize winner who had schizophrenia. And at one point he's receiving his medication and he stops taking them because he's completely numb. He says to the doctor, "John, why did you stop taking your medication?" "I couldn't do my work. I couldn't respond to my wife. I couldn't respond to my son. I just felt numb." That's a huge barrier for a lot of people who are receiving medication to treat their mental health condition, missing that thrill of mania. I'd rather feel the pain than be numb. I'd rather have those swings. I'd rather feel alive than numb. So it's really important, as I'll talk here in a little bit, about monitoring those side effects if medication is part of the treatment for your loved one, monitoring those side effects of medication so you can have a conversation with your loved one's medical provider, psychiatrist, if they allow you to discuss with them. The fourth one, the stigmas that exist around mental health condition. They don't want to be labeled as sick or crazy or psycho, some of those words that we need to get out of our vocabulary and lexicon. They don't want to be seen as their disease. It's funny, when I talk to the kids, we kind of contrast words and phrases to use, not to use. Somebody with cancer, what do we say? We say they have cancer. they're battling lung cancer, liver cancer, they have it. More often than not, when we talk about mental health conditions, what do we say? That person's schizophrenic, that person's bipolar, that person's manic depressive. We label that person as that condition instead of saying that person has schizophrenia, that person has bipolar disorder. Very important the way we choose our words to help eliminate those stigmas, so the person is not seen as their mental health condition, they're seen as a person who has that mental health condition. Because again, we're not defined by our illnesses, medical, physical, mental, we're defined by our unique traits and abilities as a person. And then the final kind of common emotional experience that somebody might have is that reluctance or partial acceptance there. Yeah, I have that treatment. I know I need this treatment, but then there still might be relapses because they grow tired of the whole treatment experience. So these are common. But how to support your loved one if they're starting to exhibit some of those common reluctance to treatment. Discuss their treatment openly. Have a talk with them. Sit down, every week. Hey, how are things going? How's therapy going? How's your medication working? Anything I can do to help? Oh, you don't like your therapist? Well, let's kind of look. Maybe there's somebody else out there that might be better for you. Have a workable plan for monitoring medication. So side effects. The person who's receiving the treatment might not notice the side effects, but you being close to that loved one might recognize them right away. So having a workable plan for monitoring medications and the issues, the side effects. Speak with the provider if your loved one gives you permission. You can always call their doctor, psychiatrist, and tell them, hey, here's what I'm seeing. They might not be able to respond to you because if your adult loved one didn't give you permission, for HIPAA purposes, you always call them and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. They can take it under consideration. But again, you got to be prepared. Like I said, those 3 steps of, initial shock, kind of moving into acceptance, and then advocacy. It's a cycle. It's not a smooth up the hill journey. It's up, down, all around. So you need to prepare yourself in case there is another crisis that happens. If a crisis does occur, a relapse you see, again, maintain that empathetic mindset. Don't judge the person. Observe them objectively, separate as a person from their mental health condition. Recognize if there's an increase in those warning signs and symptoms that I laid out earlier. Trust your intuition. You probably know your loved one, friend, relative better than anybody else. Trust your intuition. If you think it's a very, very serious threat, call 911. Explain calmly, concisely what's going on, that it's a mental health crisis. We're very equipped. I don't know if ISK had talked about the CIT crisis intervention team that we have here in Kalamazoo County. One of the leading ones in the state. I was at a conference a few years ago, and Kalamazoo County was the assistant chief of police of Detroit put up Kalamazoo County kind of as on a pedestal of our CIT response in the state of Michigan. 988, I saw it as I walked on here, the suicide prevention and crisis lifeline. It's not even necessarily for suicide, it's primary, but if somebody's having a mental health crisis, they can kind of talk you through, remain calm, don't let the person near any weapons, call 911 if you need to. Again, 988, it's just great now that we have that direct line right to the National Suicide Crisis Lifeline. De-escalating the situation, really important. Again, don't threaten the person. Don't shout. Again, remain calm. These very, very, very basic intuitive things, but as a crisis situation arises, it's tough to think. You start panicking, you're threatening the person, shouting. Don't criticize. Don't squabble with other family members that might be present. Don't bait the person. I've heard it. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Somebody threatens, don't go, oh, you're not going to do that. Oh, I'd like to see you try. Go ahead and do it. Again, don't do that. Do not do that. It can have tragic, tragic consequences. So acknowledge what they're feeling. Try to keep them from leaving, but it is a fine line. Again, use your intuition. But yeah, the key one, don't bait them. Don't give them ultimatums at that point. Just try to keep the situation under control and keep as calm as possible. And then kind of the final point here for the next couple minutes, and we can move into some discussion and questions. Oops. I was flying back from Texas last Saturday, a week ago, yesterday, and actually paid attention to the flight attendants' safety spiel. Or if you've flown enough, you've heard it 100 times. You can probably recite it by heart. But the one thing is that in the event of a sudden depressurization of the cabin, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling above you. Affix the mask to yourself first before helping others. Why? Because if you're unconscious after 5 seconds with asphyxia, you're not going to be good for anybody. The same is true for somebody with mental health condition. If you are not right or solid mentally, physically, spiritually, you're not going to help that person at all, and you're probably going to hurt yourself as well. So again, really important to maintain self-care for the family member or as a friend. Support them, that person, financially as much as you possibly can. Physically support them, but don't feel guilty if your means aren't infinite. It's reality. You don't feel guilty if you've done all you can and you've given all your support as much as you can. Personally, strive for physical good health. I'm kind of up and down in that regard, but it's good. We feel good physically, we feel good mentally, right? I always talk to the kids about, hey, exercising, those endorphins release and get that natural high, and really important to have good physical health. Watch your stress levels. No life is free of stress. Life is life. But it's really important to monitor your own stress levels and take some time for yourself. If you feel your stress levels getting high. I listen to music. When I was in Texas, I was supposed to be on vacation, but I stressed out about leaving work behind. I own a business, and it was a really stressful past few weeks, and sitting there and trying to read, like, oh, my mind's just still there. That's not working. Went for a walk. I walked down the beach in South Padre Island, go a mile up, a mile down. Took me, slow pace, an hour or so, but that worked for me, kind of, at least for 2 hours. I was able to not feel as stressed. Keep your social contacts. When somebody has a physical condition, neighbors, friends, family tend to rally around. They'll bring over hot meals for you. Oh, I'm sorry, your husband, he's in the hospital having chemotherapy. Here's some hot meals for you. Mental health conditions, don't see that often. Hey, I know you're struggling with your son who has been in and out of treatment. Here's some meals for you. So maintain those social contacts. Let them know what's going on. Don't be embarrassed by it. That stigma. Get rid of that stigma. Find a support group that support families and friends. We have family support group through NAMI, DBSA, the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. They have support groups for individuals with mental health conditions. They also have a family support group as well. If you go on their website, just search for DBSA. There's local chapters as well. Continue to pursue your own interests. If you like to paint, keep painting. If you like to write, keep writing. church choir. I was told that the church choir is some rehearsals coming up here probably shortly. If you're in the church choir, continue to do church choir. Continue to do those things that that interest you, and then do something for somebody else. Get involved with NAMI. Get involved with any other kind of local charity and help others out, and it will reflect on your advocacy and support for your loved one with a mental health condition. So real quick, before we get into questions, I just want to kind of summarize and recap. I kind of do this with everything I do, kind of 6 main points. You're not alone. So many of us have family members, loved ones, or are living with a mental health condition. You're not alone. Mental health conditions are medical conditions, just like any other physical condition. Whereas, lung cancer affects the lungs, type 1 diabetes affects the pancreas, mental health conditions affect the brain. So mental health conditions are medical conditions. They are not anybody's fault. Anybody can have a mental health condition for a whole host of different reasons. Know the warning signs, recognize the warning signs in your loved one, recognize when a relapse might be happening, and always expect recovery. Recovery is possible, and there is hope out there. And finally, again, language matters. Choose your words carefully. Don't label, don't stigmatize anybody with a mental health condition. So on that note, that kind of ends the presentation. We're at, said that 2 minutes slow. We are at about 10:05 right now. So about 10 minutes of questions, comments, discussion. It was all clear cut. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I've learned to say to people is rather than "I'm so proud of you," that's about me. I say "You make me so proud." So then
That's good. Yeah, that's
doing something.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Yeah, in the back.
Just a comment about finding models that sort of like that flight attendant, take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you don't think to yourself of some of your preconceived notions, and where that's coming from. I spent many years working in inpatient psychiatric ward, and we got permission, thanks to our program manager, to do training with the nurses. That was not officially VA sanctioned, because we used the F word, we made comments, and we had to have an acting out individual in these to teach the nurses skills and help them reinforce the skills they have. And as one of the people chosen to be an acting out individual, I can tell you, you get caught up in it, you get caught up in emotions. I probably was worse than some of the worst acting individuals we had on the board. And then it's a matter of going home and letting it go. And it's too easy to get caught up in ourselves. I'm not saying this right, but the idea is you want to be a good role models to do the kind of behavior that produce the highest good for not only yourself, but the person you're working with. And that self-care is, those were the nights when I did that. I did afternoons. We never did in the morning because I wouldn't see patients in the afternoon. It would be an acting on individual. I took a long time getting home. Go do my grocery shopping therapy or something.
I have for those that work in the mental health industry and law enforcement as well. I have several friends who are in law enforcement. It's almost like that PTSD, that trauma, leaving it. How do you separate your job and your support from yourself? It's really got to have the utmost respect. But again, leaving those preconceived notions behind. I'll be honest, I see a therapist, and I've seen a lot of therapists in my life, and I finally found a good one, and she, again, is perfect in leaving all preconceived notions and biases behind and just treating me as an individual and talking to me as an individual. So yeah, very important points there. Yes.
What I think was challenging, the slides about, support and empathy and, particularly you mentioned financial support. It feels like sometimes those supports can be enabling, that they protect the person from seeking treatment. I think when you talked about grief, I think one thing that keeps people from seeking treatment is the fear, not denial of the condition, but the fear of change, the fear of letting go of what their current reality is.
Mhm.
And so financial support just lets that person support, enables them to not change.
Yeah, there's and I've been involved in some family support groups, and I'm not sure if you've been to a family support group yet, Mabel, and that comes up a lot where family members, individuals, they've had to draw a fine line, and you know, hey, I'm going to help you find an apartment until you get on your feet. I'm giving you a strict allowance every month. There has to be, yeah, there has to be boundaries, and that's why, you know, we say do what you can, set limits, but don't feel guilty if you can't do more. Really important. But yeah, if you just let it go on indefinitely and your loved one is coming back and I need $500 more dollars. Well, what happened to the $500 I gave you this month? Where did it go? No, I'm sorry, I can't. You need to figure this out. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough love. Call it what you want. But yeah, you as a person have to have boundaries and set limits. So you don't, like you said, so you don't keep enabling that person to not seek treatment or continue down their destructive path.
That kind of goes along with self-care too.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody else in the last couple minutes we got here? Yes.
So I appreciated your comments about recovery because I've been sitting here thinking, you use that word a lot
Mhm.
and it can look so different. Can you just talk a little bit more about, I guess, what recovery looks like for any number of conditions?
Yeah, so I'll use me, and I do this when I talk to students. I'm not embarrassed. My mom's here, and she's probably heard it, or maybe not heard it. That was my mom right away. Different last names, but yeah, definitely she is my mom. She's my mom. She's my mom. Mood disorder, bipolar type 2. Okay, there it is. There's my diagnosis. For me, recovery, when I had manic episodes, they're kind of called hypomanic. They're not delusional or manifesting. It's I don't sleep. I'm boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do this, do that, do that, do that, do that, and I'm on top of the world, and nothing's going to stop me. And then kind of always flow back into depression. Like in depressive states, it can get pretty bad where can't get out of bed. I'm just laying in bed all day. I just want to pull the covers over my head. So as I work through some of those episodes, you know, my first step is getting out of bed, taking a shower, brushing my teeth in the morning, having a cup of coffee. So for me, what really helps is routines. Getting up at a certain time in the morning, having a cup of coffee, watching, you know, Sports Center or whatever for half an hour, and then jumping into my day, into my job. So, you know, that was my initial recovery. Now I see a therapist at least every other week, standing every other Wednesday, sometimes more if I'm able to recognize through NAMI and my training that if I'm starting to have relapses. And medication, which I talk about those feelings of euphoria, and I feel that a lot. You know, I've used to be still am a very emotional person, and it frankly wasn't a lot of fun when I'd sit there, I'd watch a movie, and I have this great imagination, momentary suspense of disbelief, sad movie, and I used to cry at the end of it and get emotional, and that it was like, oh, that's great. And you miss that. You kind of miss those emotional swings and feeling numb. So that's my recovery looks different depending on where I am kind of in my journey. Now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm stressed out about owning a business and, and work, but I have coping mechanisms that I can deal with it. So yeah, again, it's different, but that's just kind of what it looks like for me. Everybody's different. Yeah.
So would it be safe to say, and maybe I'm way off here, is that part of recovery is acceptance of the condition?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Acceptance and understanding of that condition. Yeah, because if you're not accepting, I never would have personally gone and started talking to a therapist again, or talking to my primary care physician about different medication options. Yeah, absolutely. I had to. I think they say it takes about 8 to 10 years from the onset of symptoms to get that person into the right diagnosis and right treatment program. It's a very long process of getting things right, so-called, to a path of hope and recovery. I was in denial for the longest time. I mean, I talked to the kids in high school. I talked through a lot of the warning signs several times with high school and middle school students, and yep, that was me. Yep, that was me. Yep, that was me. Yep, that was me. Ever heard of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences? Also, I go through the ACEs. You want to know what my score is? Yep, that was me. Yep, that was me. Yep, that was me. Yep, that was me. So that helped me. I'm a naturally curious person. So for me, educating myself, learning on my own, kind of these different aspects of mental health really helped me along to becoming more accepting of my condition, my treatment, and my recovery.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I tell you, speaking to the students, speaking to wonderful people like yourselves is also part of my treatment and recovery. It's very, very cathartic to get up here and speak amongst you people.
Yeah, so my ex-son-in-law has diagnosed me as batshit crazy. I fully,
Is that BSC? Yeah.
I fully accept it.
My mom won't tell you what what I
All my kids say about
yeah.
you go there.
So,
Yeah.
we are at 10:14. One last minute. Any other last
I
comments?
just want to say that, because you had mentioned that's a long time, but he said 8 to 10 years. A lot of that process is finding the correct medication and the correct therapist too.
Mhm.
Because the therapist could be absolutely wonderful for Brant,
Mhm.
but what we could be. We could have the same diagnosis, but
Right.
what works for his brain chemistry,
Mhm.
what works for my brain chemistry. And it takes a good 6 to 8 weeks for a medicine to take full effect before a doctor will realize, well, maybe this isn't really right.
I'm almost.
Then they have to wean you off of it.
Yeah, on the medication, I'm almost 3 years back on medication regimes, and I think I've gone through about 4 different doses, different medications, and it's still trying to find the kind of right balance. It can always be tweaked. Sometimes you start building up tolerances to it, and a little tweak here and there. Again, like Mabel said, the recovery process is different for everybody because everybody's brain chemistry is a little bit different.
Yeah, I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th medication.
Yeah.
Good combination.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Thank you.
Well, no, thank you all. No, thank you for great questions, great comments. Really appreciate you having us in here. This is a wonderful, wonderful series, Gary. Thank you so much for putting this together.
And I embrace it.
And thanks for bringing the resources. If you haven't got some of the handouts, feel free, and we'll be posting the PowerPoint presentation online. So next week we have our last part of the series, and we're going to be looking at the church and the church's attitude towards mental health over time, and that's evolved over time, and still a lot of stigma come from some early attitudes about mental health and how well they're understood. And so we'll also be taking a look at, ELCA has a social statement on mental health. So you might want to take a look at that, out there. But we'll be talking some about that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, they roll.
Oh, yeah, right.